So today we're diving into a preview of the Hozo Design Ultrasonic knife. Now this thing claims to be able to cut through wood, 3D printed support, plastics, foam like butter. But are these claims actually true, or is this more overpriced Kickstarter nonsense? Let's find out. For those unfamiliar, an ultrasonic knife uses high frequency vibrations, usually around 40,000 vibrations a second. That's so fast it hurts, and in so doing it reduces cutting resistance. That means cleaner, smoother cuts with less effort. Now there's been a few manufacturers come out with ultrasonic knives over the past few years, but Hozo Design's version is completely wireless and has interchangeable batteries. Now I will say right at the top that I was sponsored by Hozo Design to make this video, so this should not be considered in any way a review. It's just a preview of all the features and a rundown to sort of showcase it to help them promote the product. But like all the tech that I feature on this channel, Hozo Design have had no input into the crafting or editorial of this video, and I'm actually pretty proud of it. So let's get into it. The packaging is sleek and minimalist. If you've ever owned an iPhone, it's a similar feel here. Hozo sent me a few different accessories along with the knife. Oh, and this cool pencil too. And I'm going to come back to the pencil because even if you don't get the knife, the pencil's really cool and I didn't know about it. Inside the box you'll find the knife itself, a charging cable, multiple blade types, and a small cover whose top removes to reveal the chuck tool. And if you grab the charger too, that also comes with another spare battery. But, and crucially, it doesn't come with a 40-watt charging plug, which you actually need to fast charge this thing, so I don't know what's going on there. They're easy to get hold of and they usually cost under $10, so I guess it's not a huge issue. You might even have one lying around at home, but it's annoying it doesn't come in the box. Out of the box though, the build quality is solid. Surprisingly lightweight, but the materials are more plasticky than I was expecting. The main shell is made of metal, but it just feels a little bit less premium than I was expecting, I guess. The rear of the blade is where all the weight is, because that's where the battery is, and that's the right way round. It feels nice in your hand as a result. Moving down the body, you have a thin metal shell with 4 vents. Now I have quite big hands, but the shape is well designed to nestle into the perlicue of your hand. That's the fancy word for this bit. The front is ribbed plastic that's rougher to the touch with a sort of fine texture, and on top is a silver button. You slide it forward and press it to cut on demand, or you can slide it back to sort of hold the blade slicing all the time. It does cut out after a couple of minutes though. I assume this is a safety feature to stop you just leaving it on the desk on. That button again though feels quite cheap. I'd have rather seen a metal button here, but it is what it is and it's functional. And last up is the chuck and the blade. In order to change the blade, you need to undo this tiny little screw. The tool to do so is kept in the cap of the blade itself, which is held together with magnets. I actually really like this, it feels really nice to use, and yeah, it's a cool little feature. And magnets are fun. And while the packaging and the feel of the knife is all great, what actually matters is how it performs. So let's get to the fun stuff and cut some stuff up. Now, if you're new to the channel, you may not know that I'm a massive nerd and I like to do nerdy things. Most of the content on this channel revolves around 3D printing or modelling, and so if that's your jam, consider subscribing. But the reason I mention that is because the first thing I want to try and cut are 3D printed supports. Now, I'll be honest with you, I'm the sort of guy that normally just tears supports away from models, but sometimes you need a bit more finesse. Now there's no doubt this blade was really impressive. It cut through the finer supports really nicely, and I was able to get a surprising amount of precision too. In fact, with a little bit more practice, I'm sure I would get significantly better than this. But there's no hiding from the fact that it's definitely easier just to heat the supports off and peel them off, and I think I would rather just dial my supports in properly so that I didn't have to bother with any of this at all, rather than using a knife to go in and cut them out later. It also struggled to cut through some of the thicker supports. I had to put quite a lot of effort in to get through these, but I'm just being pedantic here because there's no real need to cut through the middle of supports anyway. You should really be just focusing on the tips. I think whether you get on with this blade or not is going to come down to your style of workflow. If you are a very precise person who likes to individually cut away supports, you're going to love this, and if you're like me and prefer just to rip them all off and deal with the aftermath, then it might not be for you. I also had a pop at using this knife to remove models from sprues, like the Games Workshop plastic kits that you get, or maybe Gunpla. Now, I'm not going to lie, I went into this thinking this would be a little bit rubbish and cumbersome at doing this, and I would much prefer to use my nice fancy side cutters for the job. but actually when I tested it, it performed really well. It's not great at cutting really thick plastic, but it is very good at cutting the fine plastic, and it can cut it absolutely flush with very, very little effort. Don't get me wrong, side cutters, this thing, they're about on a par, but if you bought the blade, then you could absolutely use it for this job too. It definitely does have some limitations though. It could cut through the wood if you took it very, very slowly and shaved off a piece after a piece after a piece, but if you tried to cut it all in one go, it's just really not the tool for the job. You should really be using a saw. And because of the vibrations, it generates lots of heat, which means lots of smoke, and yeah, no, I just don't recommend it for cutting heavy duty things. It's really designed for fine detail precision work. I think my main use for it though will be for things like basing and modelling, where you can use it to cut really precise lines, follow patterns, do really interesting shapes. I liked it for this a lot. The other thing I'll use it for is for basing, so for cutting up foam and things like that, maybe for cosplay too. I can see lots and lots of uses and my mind is buzzing with potential. So who is this for? And don't get me wrong, I get it. This tool is not for everybody. In fact, you can make do with most things like, I don't know, a hot knife or side cutters or even just an X-Acto knife and get a result at the end that's almost identical. But there's no doubt this is the right tool for somebody out there. Maybe you're a professional cosplayer and you do this a lot and it's just much easier to use something that cuts a little bit easier. Or perhaps you just like having cool gadgets on your desk. That's fine. This thing is really cool and it's really functional and it works. I also really like the fact that it's wireless, so I can just pick it up, take it into my workshop and cut away with it, instead of having to find a plug somewhere and then being tethered with my cable. So yeah, maybe it's a bit overkill for general hobby use, but it's really fun to use, and if you're doing lots of precision work, it's a really nice tool to use. So before I get to my summary, I wanted to run through some of the pros and cons. For me, the pros are this cuts really cleanly and precisely. It also requires much less effort to cut through materials than, say, using a knife or an X-Acto blade, and although I've seen some reports online that say the blades run out quite quickly, that wasn't my experience because I was actually able to cut with the back of the knife, not just the blade itself. So yeah, I actually think the vibration function could extend the life of the blades, not shorten it, but hey. And obviously the fact that this is a rechargeable, portable unit is an absolute godsend. In fact, when I was cutting model sprues, I was able to just rotate the tool around and go chip, 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 and cut around the tools really quickly instead of having to rotate around and clip and clip and clip and clip, which is sometimes my least favourite bit of cutting models from sprues. But there are definitely some cons too. First off, the price. If you don't manage to get it on the early bird price, it's around $150. Compared to a $5 X-Acto blade, that is a stark difference. Some materials you'll try and cut and they'll just require a lot of patience in order to get right. That was certainly my experience with removing 3D printed supports. Brilliant for very high precision bits and pieces, but for the majority of the supports I will heat them up with a heat gun and peel them off as normal, thank you very much. If I don't want to leave divots in my models, then I just need to get my support settings correct. And still other materials just won't be suitable at all. I'm thinking, you know, things like glass or thick acrylic or, as we saw, wood. And I'm still not sure about the cost of the replacement blades either. If I know the cost of the blades by the time this video goes out, I'll pop it up on screen, but if not, I'll link the Kickstarter down below and you can go and check them out in there. Now, if you've stuck with me this far, thank you very much, and I want to give you a little bit of a treat. Hozo Design also sent me this really cool metal pencil. It's absolutely ridiculous. I think it costs about 30 quid with all the accessories, but it's gorgeous. It's a solid metal construction. Inside that little donut thing are about 15 different colours, which you can just screw onto the pen and change the colour so it works like a normal crayon. I really like it. It's really satisfying and really fun. You can buy it from their website if you want to. I just thought I'd mention it because I just thought it was great. Anyway, I'm going to finish up with the conclusions on the video, and thanks for watching. So, is the Hozo Design Ultrasonic blade worth it? In my opinion, for very casual users, no. Unless you've got a penchant for collecting lots of cool hobby tools that you don't really need but are just really fun to have, then in that case, go for your life. If, however, you're more of a professional user or you do this a lot, then I think this could be a really useful little thing to have around on your desk. No, you're not going to use it for every job, but the ones where you do use it will be an absolute pleasure. You can check out Hozo Design's Kickstarter using the links below. If you find this video helpful, you can drop a like under it and maybe a comment, which helps the YouTube algorithm promote it out to other people like you, or you can support me via Patreon or via YouTube members. A huge thank you to everybody who's done that. You are absolute legends. You know who you are. I've got a huge amount of exciting content coming on the channel, including a brand new GK3 Pro review. So if you're interested, subscribe to the channel, and I'll leave you with the fact that this has been RisingApe Minis. My name's James, and I'll see you next time.